Okie dokie, guys. We are live for today's show. Sorry about that. Technical problems as per usual here. We're going to be talking, about Chris Eubank, Conor Benn. We're going to talk about drug testing, Eddie Hearn, Ben Shalom. And today, we're going to be talking quite a bit about the topic of bullying as well, right? We're going to be talking about when it's okay to say things to people, right? And when it's not okay to say things to people. At what point, do certain people in the sport of boxing need a reality check, And when do promoters need to learn that they are just promoters and not fighters? So, on the show, of course, I've got with me, is this a Sunday at 7 p.m., my brother from another mother, my main man, Ryan. Now, I'm doing this properly this week, So, I'm going to quickly say, I'm going to put a link in the description box. But if you want to find Ryan, Ryan is on TikTok mainly. So if you like to find Ryan, the link is in the description. I will pin this at some point, okay? But the link is in the description. For those of you who want to find Ryan, Ryan is primarily on TikTok these days, but we'll put all of his links in the chat, in a comment, very, very shortly. Ryan, can you hear me? Just to double check. And how are you?
Yeah. Okay, hear you loud and clear. Doing good, mate. Doing good.
All right, let's get straight into it, all right?
Yeah, interesting week.
Interesting week. So let's start at the beginning, all right? Let's start with the slap, all right? Let's start with the slap. Always tell me if you think it was legit or if you think it was staged, and just tell me your overall general thoughts about it, and then we'll go from there.
I think the slap was legit. I find it very okay. Boxing is a sport of entertainment, and you want to sell tickets. This fight was already sold, and with Conor Benn's history, I don't think there's no amount of money he would have took to be slapped in the face of an egg. To highlight the things he's been trying to hide for the past 2.5 years. Keyword hide, because we still don't know the legitimate truth about his drug testing. You could go for most people that failed the drug test, you could do a quick, simple search on Google and get what they failed for, what happened, and all the ins and outs. You can't do it with Conor Benn, so it's definitely a hide. I enjoyed it. I thought that slap was excellent. It was perfect. It captured the narrative of where Chris is coming from.
Let me start off with this, right? Do you think that Chris was out of order for doing it? Because at the end of the day, you can't run around assaulting people unprovoked, right, on stage. And I'm with you. I do not think, Ryan, this was staged at all, right? And you know what it is? It's so funny, It's very fashionable these days to say things are staged. I got 1,000,001 comments when I did the live video on this. Oh, don't you know it's staged? I can't believe you're falling for this. It's like WWE. Like, it's very, very like avant-garde these days to say everything's staged. It's staged. Yeah. I don't believe it's staged. I don't believe that fucking Conor Benn sat in a room, like I agree with you, and said, yeah, okay, you pull out an egg and you slap me around the face with an egg.
Embarrassed me in front of millions. Yeah.
Yeah, and more importantly, not even that. You know, the whole thing with the drug testing content, there's no way he would agree to that, because
no way.
He's doing everything he can at the minute to deflect away from what's going on with the drug testing. We'll talk about this in a minute, let alone shed light on it. All right. But I want to ask you, Eubank, that's not how you behave if you're going to take the fight. If you've got a problem with Conor, don't take the fucking fight. Go on, Ryan.
So I had this discussion, an argument yesterday with one of my good mates who is very knowledgeable and who I respect. I trust his opinion 99 out of 99 times. But on this one, we were on totally opposite sides of the fence. I am solely, purely on the Chris Eubank side. And he was like, boxing is not a stage show. This ain't helping the fight. It brings boxing to disrepute. And you can't assault people because it's a slippery slope. Because every time something happens, someone has to escalate and go over and over and over. So if you hit someone with an egg today, what someone's going to do next week, next year, whatever. I understand that, and I understand what people are saying morally. You can't slap people in public. I agree with that narrative. However, we got to understand that there's more to it than that. You're talking about a guy that failed multiple drug tests, 2, we believe, because like I said, Conor's been trying to hide this, 2 drug tests, a guy that tried to get the fight on and pay Chris money, extra money, to continue with the fight while failing the drug test. This is a guy that's failed and been sanctioned and then fought tooth and nail, rightly or wrongly, to appeal. And we still don't know what he was appealing for and what the reasons were behind it. So there is a level of frustration. You could say that this had a detriment to Chris's career because he still made that agreed 157 and he looked like a bag of bones when he done that weigh-in. And then his next fight,
he looked horrendous. He looked horrendous. Absolutely horrendous, by the way. He looked just to say, Ryan, do you remember as well? Not only did he make the weight, but even though the fight was called off, a couple of days prior to the fight happening, he still actually weighed in on the day of the fight not happening at 160 and took a photo of himself on the scales and put it on Instagram to say, I would have made weight anyway. Just carry on, Ryan. Sorry.
I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to go into the nuances of weight cutting. I'm sure we're all aware how dangerous weight cutting is and the detriments it have to your body. But Chris has never showed a bad chin or been dropped his entire career. Liam Smith knocked him out. No matter how he might not have been out cold on the floor, but he had no idea where he was. He was doing the chicken walk. Yeah, that's the effects of weight cutting bad. So there is some elbow as well.
And an elbow, because I think it was the elbow that did him.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the effects it has on you. You know, the fight with the egg or without the egg, the fight was always going to take place, and the winner was going to be the winner regardless. But Eubank can't get back what happened to him prior to the egg scandal. This was his comeback.
Let me give you my point of view just for a second, and then you can work off that, right? I want to make it crystal clear, right? And we'll get onto this more in a minute, yeah? And guys, I'm reading all your comments in the chat. I'm more of a producer today, right? Ryan's the one doing the talking, yeah? But I just want you to want people to know, I think Chris Eubank Jr. is a complete idiot, right? And I have to say, yeah, I personally feel like no matter what has happened, in the past or whatever, once you sign for that fight, once you agree to fight, then anything that happens needs to happen in the ring. You sort it out. You sort it out like a man on fight night. These guys got plenty of fucking time to get in the ring and punch each other in the head. They got plenty of time to headbutt each other in the ring, low blow each other in the ring, and do whatever they need to do. But as far as it goes outside the ring, you don't do that. And for me, that could have been a very, very dangerous situation, because I think it was unplanned, Ryan. I'll ask you in a minute if you think Ben Shalom was in on it, if you think he knew what was going to happen. I'll ask you that in a minute, right? But I think it was very dangerous because we both know, right? It doesn't take much, and I'm not a fighter. Ryan is a roadman, but I am not, a fighter. Listen, if anything happens on the street, I'm hiding behind Ryan, you can forget about it. Just pretend I don't exist, But listen, we both know, Ryan, that it doesn't take much to cut somebody when the hands start going at all. Like, little glancing shots, anything. It doesn't take anything to cut somebody. And the way that Chris Eubank slapped Conor Benn up the side of his head, that could have ended up very nasty. He could have missed. He could have hit him with a palm of he could hit him with blah, blah, blah. That could have been a cut or something like that. And then that could have been the fight delayed. And then there would have been BBOC intervention. There could have been possible assault charges, whatever. So just work off that. And do you think that Ben Shalom was in on it and knew, Ryan, that what was going to happen beforehand? Do you think he knew?
I'm not sure if Ben Shalom knew, because I don't think Ben Shalom has a good poker face. He's not very coy. So I think if he knew, he could have lay it at the bag. So but when I see Ben Shalom prior in interviews about certain things, you could tell when he's lying. He does this little stumble when he speaks. So I don't know if Chris would have trusted him with that. To your point about the dangers, I agree with you 100%. Not just the danger to cuts and bruises and XYZ. You got a very, very dangerous stage. You got a bunch of professional fighters, professional trainers, big guys, security guys, XYZ that all can look after themselves, and having an altercation like that can cause a melee. I agree, I understand. But this is not the first time in boxing we've had slaps, pushes, tables thrown, and all sorts of madness. So we can't really blame that on those guys. This is common practice in the past 15, 20 years of boxing. So it's part of promotion. Someone said to me that this is bringing boxing into disrepute. And I gave him a very simple response. I said, on a level of 1 to 10 of disrepute, What do you think Conor Benn's done over the past 2.5 years compared to that 1 second egg slap? You can't compare that 1 second egg slap to 2.5 years of Conor Benn's bullshit. I don't think it's comparable. This Conor Benn's story was national news. He was on Piers Morgan. Yeah, it's been in every paper, every news clipping, every boxing head show, everything. It's everywhere. It was everywhere. So one egg slap, I don't think it compares. It doesn't compare.
I will get on to. We'll talk about Conor Benn and his drug test saga at some point tonight. I just want to say that when Ryan says that Conor Benn was on Piers Morgan, I want you guys to also remember that Conor Benn sat in a chair, in front of Piers Morgan and told him that he did not want to deal with the British Boxing Board of Control. Ryan, just a quick question: is that a lie or is that the truth that I'm speaking there? Did he not say that he didn't want to deal with the British Boxing Board of Control and that they were biased towards him because of some BS with his father?
30 years ago.
So that's true, right? Okay.
He said that, but I don't believe that story one bit. So here's the thing about it.
Of course not.
Here's the thing about it, yeah. And I'm saying this because this is reference, because this has happened before to fighters in the UK and America and across the world. You fail a test and you go, I didn't fail the test. The ball goes, well, you need to provide all your supplements, provide all your PTs, all your bits and bobs, and we'll investigate. And there's been many occasions where they've gone, this is not intentional use. This is residual use. This is some sort of mistake. However, because it's in your blood, you can't fight. We'll give you a retroactive 3-month ban. Yeah, it's happened many, many times before. Conor didn't want to do that. He didn't want to provide any additional help. He didn't want to provide any additional support. He didn't want to go through the process. That, to me, sounds like a spoiled brat.
I want to ask, hopefully I'm not muted right now. I want to move quickly on to the promoters, okay? I was going to ask you a quick yes or no question, then I'll do an intro and then you can talk as much as you like, right? Do you think that we have here a problem in this, in British boxing? Do you think we have a problem in British boxing where promoters are now starting to think that they're the ones fighting? Just yes or no, Ryan, for me. Or as close to yes or no as you can get before I do the intro and bring you back in for real.
So I can't say yes or I know what you're saying, but I don't think they're fighting. Obviously we had the issue with Frank Warren pushing Ben Shalom. Again, Frank's a guy is in his late 60s, maybe 70s now. Like I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and obviously Eddie ran over to Ben as well. I get your point. I don't think promoters are physically fighting, but they do feel very combative right now.
Right. Let's look at some of this crap that we're having to see. And look, by the way, Ryan, it's so ironic that look who's appeared out of nowhere. Look who's crashing interviews. I don't know if you can see that on the left-hand side of your screen, but it's Chisora, the guy who we were talking about last week. And I told you that this idiot, is an idiot that cannot stay out of trouble, right? And he is a guy that's destined for trouble. And he's already got 1 week off from his fight, and he's already sticking his fucking nose into business which doesn't belong to him. But as you said, Ryan, we've got Derek Chisora and Eddie Hearn ganging up on Ben Shalom. The two of them there saying that you've got no balls. We can see here, I'll get up in a minute here. In fact, I'll get the footage up as we're rolling. This is literal footage of Conor Benn on the left-hand side of the screen for no reason, appearing to rush at Ben Shalom, which then resulted in Eddie Hearn doing a post-fight interview on IFL TV, saying things to Ben Shalom like he shat himself. He also said to Ben Shalom in this very interview here, which I will highlight up on the screen, he said that Ben Shalom was lucky up on the stage when there was that altercation and he pushed him. He said he could have gone down for GBH if there wasn't security guards up on the stage. At what point, Ryan, I know what people are going to try and say. People are going to try and advance the argument. And what Eddie Hearn's trying to advance the argument of, well, look, this is a fighting sport, all right? This is a fighting sport. If you can't take a bit of banter, if you can't take a bit of heat, then you should get out of the kitchen. All right. My argument, I like you to make a comment, is that's just a covering up, in my opinion, for bullying. Because Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, is a promoter. You're not a fighter. All right. And for me, like I said before, your job as a promoter is to promote the fight, right? And not only is your job to promote the fight, but as we saw on stage the other day, and I'll get the footage with Eddie, not diffusing the situation, in my opinion, he's running over to Chris Eubank Jr. and trying to do something to Chris Eubank Jr. And then when the melee's broken down, he's pushing Ben Shalom on stage, which I'm sure you've seen, but if not, I will get the footage up.
Yep.
Instead of actually doing what he should have done, right, which is break up, get the two fighters away from each other, diffuse and calm the situation down. And this guy is so fucking self-obsessed, yeah? All right. We've heard all the bullshit lies and stories about Billy Correa Boxing Club, which no one has a record of his amateur boxing, boxing medal. No one's ever seen this guy's amateur boxing card. But he's running around telling people he was a former fighter, but he had to change his name because nobody could know that he was Eddie Hearn because his dad was rich. He told everybody he was 4-0 in the amateurs. He's doing this, he's doing that. Ryan, for me, right, this guy, in my opinion, is a straight up bully. And I think his conduct this week towards Ben Shalom has been thoroughly unprofessional and has crossed the line of what a promoter should do. I've rambled on enough. Go for it.
So, I said last week that politicians, what you say today is not the same thing tomorrow. And it's the same thing promoters. If the shoe was on the other foot, Eddie would not allow any of his fighters to fight anyone that failed the PED test. He's pulled fighters from that already. So has Frank. When they've had fighters that's done slaps, table chairs, throws, and all the little melees, they've all promoted the shit out of it. Yeah. Now it's been on the other foot. They're crying about it. So yes, there is a bit of a bullying mentality because now you're trying to make Ben accountable for Chris's actions. And then on the same side, you're running to the promoter to push Ben, but you're not running to fight security or other fighters or XYZ. Ben didn't do it. However, there's a level of one-upmanship, whereas because Eddie feels he's a bigger, better promoter or the best promoter in the world, as he always says, and Frank feels that Ben's below him as well, they do try to belittle and bully him that you don't know the game, you don't know the sport. I wouldn't go that far, but I will say this: Ben Shalom hasn't helped himself over the years with these narratives. And it doesn't mean you should be bullied for it. But if you act a certain way, people are going to treat you a certain way. And that's an unfortunate aspect of life.
But right, let me throw something back your way at that, yeah? All right. And then you come back at me. I would say, yeah, I have no problem. Right. By the way, I thought Frank Warren, who we all know, listen, you know, I've backed Frank Warren, right? And you know, you once obviously knew Frank Warren and you know, I've backed Frank Warren 10, 15 years ago. I was saying Frank Warren was the best promoter in this country 15 years ago, yeah? When people were laughing at me and saying it's Hearn. And 15 years later, we can all clearly see who's right and who's wrong, yeah? About that one, yeah? So I've backed Frank Warren from the fucking start. I thought Frank Warren's behavior towards Ben Shalom, and I said that at the time, pushing him on the stage, is absolutely disgusting. Frank Warren's a 65-year-old man. Once you put your hands on somebody like that, if Frank Warren catches a left hook in the jaw at 60 years old, that's his own problem. Keep your fucking hands to yourself. You are not a fighter. Too many promoters think they're fighters. Now, let me just quickly say, and I will let you speak, I promise. With Eddie, I have no problem with him, right, having a bit of banter with Ben Shalom. I have no problem with him taking the piss out of Ben Shalom, right? I have no problem with him making jokes at the expense of Ben Shalom. But when you start to threaten people, and this is what I'm saying, this is where it started to go. It started to go away from verbal threats, and it's now starting to veer off to physical threats now, where you've got boxers, yeah, that are making moves towards Shalom as if they're going to punch him. He was pushed on the stage, which, you know, some people would consider assault. I'm not saying it is, but literally, according to the definition of the law, is assault. Also, threats are assault. And you've got Eddie Hearn on camera saying things like, you know, I would have got done for GBH if there hadn't been security. For me, these idiots are now crossing the line, Ryan. Carry on.
So I will say this, yeah. First of all, with the Frank Warren situation, to be fair to Frank, Ben Shalom was the guy that pushed between them and pushed through to get in front. So
okay, that's true.
So again, we've got to be fair. And I'm trying to say, like, I always tell people that I'm trying to say, you have to try be impartial and understand from both sides of the coin. It's not always easy to do that because we all have our own opinions and thoughts on the situation. But like I said, Ben hasn't helped himself in some of these situations. In regards to some of the stuff Eddie said, Eddie's a rich guy. He's a millionaire. He grew up in money. I think it's all a show for him. I don't think Ben, like Eddie will talk the talk, but I don't think Eddie will really go and say, "Oh, I want to fight this guy. I want to fight Ben Shalom and so on and so." It sounds good in the interview. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everyone is a tough guy until the shit hits the fan. Yeah,
Let me
right. And I think if the shit hit the fan, Eddie wouldn't be there.
Let me quickly ask you another. I'm going to put the heat on you again here. I want to ask you about Eddie Hearn and Simon Jordan. Right, guys in the chat, press 1 if you're with me on this. Press 2 if you disagree. Chat, I've got no problem if you disagree. Am I right or wrong about this, Ryan? Did Simon Jordan, right, in his first ever 1 versus 1 debate with Eddie Hearn, did Simon Jordan not come on the air and tell everybody that he was suffering from cancer? And did Eddie Hearn? Yeah, gone. Is that true or false?
Yeah,
he did, right? Simon Jordan came on the air and told everybody before the debate even started that he was suffering from cancer. Did Eddie Hearn, right, in the subsequent debate that took place 5 minutes later, then challenge Simon Jordan to a fight, 1 versus 1, a boxing match, 1 versus 1? Because I know what the answer is to that, and chat knows what the answer is, and I'll get up and I'll play it.
No, I can't remember. I'm not. It was a while ago, that chat. I can't remember, but possibly.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did. He asked Simon Jordan out live on the air, and guys in the chat will say he asked Simon Jordan out for a fight live on the air and said, "We'll have a fight, no problem. We'll do it for charity." That's what he said. He said, "We'll do it."
Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that.
And he said, "We'll do a fight for charity." 20 minutes, after Simon Jordan came on the air and told everybody that he was suffering from cancer. This guy is an absolute disgrace, in my opinion. And the reason I'm saying that to you is because he's got a previous, Ryan. He's got a previous for this kind of stuff, for asking people for fights. And for me, he only picks, Ryan, the small people that he thinks he can beat. He'll pick a Simon Jordan, he runs his mouth. He picks a Ben Shalom, he runs his mouth. Oscar De La Hoya, completely different story, Ryan.
Yeah. Eddie's a big guy. If you ever walk past Eddie, he's
massive. This is 6 feet, 6'5". He's huge. He's huge.
Yeah. Like I walk past Eddie and I look up to Eddie as well. He's a big guy. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not defending Eddie Hearn. But again, Simon Jordan is one of those guys that brings it on himself. So, because Simon Jordan is an instigator. He likes to shout at people and berate people because he's on radio and because there's a phone in between you. I guarantee half the people Simon Jordan has shouted at and said things about, he wouldn't say in their face. Simon Jordan and Eddie Hearn are very, very similar. Yeah, they don't hate to admit it, but they clash so much because they're very the same. They both like to be heard and they like people to do what they say to do. Yeah, this is why when someone like Eubank was putting on Eddie this week in the press conference, Eddie didn't like it because he wants to control the show. They're both front runners.
Okay. By the way, we'll change topic on the same topic, but slightly different topic. I agree with you. I think Eddie Hearn's a big guy, 6'5", and I think he gives him a bit of confidence. But I'm like you. I believe once he takes a shot on the chin, and I tell you, Ryan, it's only a matter of time, you know. That's my opinion. It's only a matter of time before he gets tested. If you're running his mouth now for the last 3-4 years about charity fights with people, he's been talking about GBH with people, he's been talking about all sorts. It's only a matter of time, really, before he's going to get tested. And I think I know what will happen when he does get tested. I think he'll fold. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but this is what I'm trying to say. Respectfully, rich guys are not fighters. Combat sports is a poor man's sport. It's not a rich man's sport. Know what I mean? You get all these rich guys doing jiu-jitsu lessons and training with ex-world champions and MMA guys and karate guys and everything. Not one of those guys can fight. They know the philosophy and they could do a kick. Fighting's in the heart. It's in the brain. It's different. You could do a technique, but it doesn't mean you can fight. Fight means I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get challenged mentally and physically, and my heart's going to get checked. You could teach anyone to throw a good punch. Don't mean they're a good fighter.
All right. Before we move on, let's read a few comments out, Ryan. Richard says, the thing is, keep it verbal, though. When Simon Jordan is mouthing off about stuff, he doesn't know it's up to the other party to... Excuse me. When Simon Jordan is mouthing off about stuff, he doesn't know about it's up to the other party to challenge the talking points rather than offer him out for a fight. So he basically says, you know, keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. Yeah. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, we all know the story about Frank Warren taking a punch off Mike Tyson.
Mike, yeah.
We all know about that. Let's have a look here. Michael Thompson, I've got this on the left-hand side of my screen, this kind of stuff. Eubank calling him on site. So Eddie Hearn, basically. I don't know if you heard that one there.
Yeah.
It's on site, Ryan. It's on site. Ryan.
But this is what I mean about Eddie. He knows the little key words and he does his little things. He makes himself the star. All right, so I wouldn't know the numbers, but if you go get the most person who's been interviewed the most, no, if you get the fighter who's been interviewed the most on IFL TV, which is the most popular YouTube channel for stuff, for boxing, and you do how many times has Eddie Hearn been interviewed? I bet Eddie has been interviewed at least 4 times more than everyone else. He's made himself a celebrity by doing these things like on site and all the talk and it. That's what he does. Now, in one side, you could say that's a good promoter because he's making talking points and he's doing certain things. But just because you're making talking points and you're promoting, it doesn't mean you're putting a good image of yourself or of your brand or of the fighter. Because as far as I'm concerned, the stuff with Conor Benn has hurt Eddie. It's hurt Matchroom. It's hurt Conor because you're supporting someone that's cheated. Hear the joke. Out of everything that's happened, the slaps, the on-site comments, the Conor Benn rushing Shalom and everything, there's one thing that's not in denial. Conor Benn cheated. He had steroids in his system. So intentional or not, you cannot deny that. Anything else is subjective. And that's what I'm trying to say. Whereas he does all the talk and X, Y, Z, but he's hurt himself.
We'll get on to that. I want to switch it up now to Chris Eubank. I want to give you another opinion, and you go off this. All right? I think Chris Eubank Jr. is full of shit. I said, why have I got the Martin Bacoli thing up here? Guys, I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. Get that bum off here, that Martin Bacoli bum off here. Nah. I think Chris Eubank is absolutely full of shit. Here's why. He says, Ryan, the question is, why are you fighting Conor Benn? You're calling Conor Benn a drug cheat. So if Conor Benn's a drug cheat, why are you giving Conor Benn his biggest payday? Because as I said before, I don't know if I said it to you last week or somebody else. Conor Benn really, for me, in the sport of boxing, I'm not sure how far this guy can go. Ever since he's failed those 2 drugs tests, if you look at his most recent performances against Pete Dobson and so, there's a dramatic reduction. I have to be honest, in my opinion, in the amount of power. It's just, he looks, the funny thing is, Ryan, about Conor Benn when you fought Pete Dobson. When Conor Benn fought Pete Dobson, he looked exactly like the Conor Benn he used to fight on Next Gen, on Matchroom Next Gen. Remember Matchroom Next Gen all them years ago when he was fighting them? I'll tell you one thing about Conor Benn. Conor Benn's got the heart of a lion. I've never, ever disputed that Conor Benn's heart or that he's not a fighting man or anything. Yeah, this guy had his jaw broken, against that kickboxer, against Cedric Perrinode, and could have easily taken a way out. And the man fought to the finish with a broken jaw. So I've never questioned Conor Ben's ability to fight, his heart, anything like that, how hard he trains. I know people that have been in the same gym as him. I know people who've directly been in camp with Conor. So I've heard stories about him in camp. Actually, ironically, before he failed his first drugs test, I had someone come to me and tell me this guy's unbelievable in the gym. They say not even his own personal trainers or anybody can keep up with him in the gym in terms of the times he's setting, the records he sets, everything. They said he's literally a machine. He's unbelievable. Somebody I know who was actually in the gym, with him, So and then obviously subsequently we know what happened, But my point is, Chris Eubank Jr. is coming up with all these excuses. Why are you giving this guy a payday? For me, it's quite simple, right? Conor Benn's biggest fight is Chris Eubank Jr. There ain't no other big fights out there for him. There's world title fights out there for Conor Benn, but there's no real big market fights out there for Conor Benn. I don't think there's any big fights out there other than Chris Eubank that people are really interested in seeing Conor Benn involved in. Like, nobody would ever be really interested in seeing a Conor Benn versus a Terence Crawford at welterweight, for example. It's a gimme fight. It's a silly fight. It would do XYZ numbers, but nobody cares. So the question is, why is Chris giving him the payday? And Chris is trying to, in my opinion, lie about it, in my opinion, and say things like, well, I'm giving him a payday because I want to show drugs cheats. This is how you don't. This. I want to teach drug cheats a lesson in boxing. This is how you treat drugs cheats. No, Chris. How you treat drug cheats in boxing is you don't give them a fucking payday. You don't give him fucking millions of pounds. You leave him out in the cold. So Chris also needs to look in the mirror and just be fucking honest with himself, doesn't he, Ryan? Like, your career's stalled, your career ain't going nowhere. You're coming towards the end of your career, and you want a payday. So, and you're willing to fight somebody who has not only failed multiple drugs tests, but who you likely believe will be on drugs going into the fight. And you're willing to fight that person despite all that to get a payday. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, so I agree mostly. Whereas, yeah, it is about the money. It is solely about the money. They're prize fighters, and they want to obviously capitalize on the money. Eubank's now 34, 35, 35. He doesn't have much long left, and he's going to make much more. They were hoping to do this fight a couple of years ago and possibly have 2 or maybe even 3 fights. Based on the way things are now, you'd be lucky if you get 1 or 2. Yeah, because like I said, both of them have progressed in their careers to certain ways. The problem with Eubank is that Eubank as a athlete had loads of potential, but he just wasn't managed and developed right going along the way. And each time he's fought world-class fighters, he struggled. He did beat the girl fair and square, but obviously Billy Joe Saunders, George Groves, no, I mean, like, he struggled. For Chris, this is in his mind, this is an easy fight. I'm going to fight a smaller guy for more money, maybe triple than anyone else. So for him, it's a calculated move. It's a tactical move. You know what I mean? It's not a desire move. And also, he knows what everyone knows. They're banking on their father's legacies and names to capture the general public. Yeah, they're all saying normally when you have a fight, you get your salary and then you get points on pay-per-view. Like for pay-per-view sales, you get extra money. No one's mentioned that so far, but I'm sure they both know that they're going to get some extra points on top of that if it sells what they expected to sell on pay-per-view.
Just to quickly say, guys, we've got 64 in the chat so far. If you can please hit the like button if you can. And if you want to be a part, please feel free to subscribe. But please, if you can, hit the like button. Just want to quickly say, Ryan, something's come up actually, which I did have on my list of questions to ask you. And nobody's brought this up until Kelly McGuigan's brought this up in the chat. It's about drug testing. You've got one of the people in there, Conor Benn, who's already failed 2 drugs tests, right? I don't think I'm triggering the lawyers by saying that. I think I'm stating a clear-cut fact, right? I'm not accusing Conor Benn of intentionally taking drugs, but I'm stating the fact. He has failed 2 drugs tests, right? Right. Nobody's asked a simple question, right? Nobody in the boxing media has asked this question of Eddie Hearn, right? And they've done 3 press conferences. Nobody's asked, is Conor Benn being tested at a minute? I would like to know, is Conor Benn being tested? I would like to know, Ryan, if I was there, I would like to know, can somebody tell me the times and dates of Conor Benn's last 3 drugs tests? I'd like to know. Conor Benn last 3 drugs tests, who carried them out? What tests were they? And what dates were they carried out?
So I'll go back to what I said earlier in this video. Conor Benn and his team had done everything humanly possible to hide what he's done. Yeah. So I know Eubank's been tested. He put it on Twitter, and he said he's been tested like 3 times in the past week or whatever, so and so. I haven't seen that from Conor. And the reason why, Conor may have, I'm not saying he does, some sort of sanction of what can be done or not be done because he's fought this to a certain way. Saying that I've done, if he had in this arbitration where he was found innocent, saying I've been tested 50 times in the past year to prove that I'm cheated, to prove that I haven't cheated, I'm not taking no more tests. And they said, all right, then that's fine, you get a 6-month waiver. You never know. We have no idea because there's no evidence of anything at all. And I'm not saying that's happened. I'm saying that because there's no clarity on what's been said or what's been done, you never know what's happening. I keep saying this all the time. As much as I love boxing, boxing's a shady business. Facts.
Do you not find it funny? I find it funny. Well, we don't not find it funny. It's pretty obvious why. But do you think it's a bit disingenuous of the boxing media to not even ask that? I know they all want to be friends with everybody and stay on everybody's side. But given the history of what's happened, I mean, this guy's failed 2 tests. I mean, look, do you not think it's like fucking standard practice to ask, look, what is the testing procedure for this fight? Given that the last fight was called off because the guy failed twice.
Do you remember what I told you last time? I don't know if it was last week or when we were speaking prior. That a lot of these videographers now, who say they're interviewers, they're more interested in being friends. They have a 5-minute chat before the video about all sorts of random shit. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the boxing. They don't like asking the tougher questions because they don't want to get blacklisted. Yeah, and you know, some questions are hard to ask when you know there's a wall up against them. So you know you're going against the grain when you ask the questions. Yeah, but a real journalist will ask those questions. There's no sugarcoating. See, the thing about it is that you can't be in someone's car. You can't be paid to travel to press conferences. You can't be in hotels sponsored by these guys and then ask them tough questions. You can't. It's counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve.
Can I ask you a question quickly? The name Chris McKenna, we're just going to stick on this journalist subject one more time. Does the name Chris McKenna ring a bell to you in terms of boxing journalist? Chris McKenna, Daily Star, quite well known.
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm mostly read by else, but that doesn't come up to my head. Yeah.
All right, guys in the chat will know who Chris McKenna is, right? I've got his page up now. He's one of the most highly regarded, journalists in this country in terms of boxing, right? The Daily Star is an absolute rag, but believe it or not, Chris McKenna's stuff is very official. Do you know what I mean? His stuff is very, very official. Like he'd be like on the, I don't want to say Dan Raphael for obvious reasons, but he'd be like on the Coppinger type of level in terms of when he says something, most of the time, do you know what I mean? He's on the money. Do you know what I mean? Do you know that Chris McKenna was threatened at a press conference this week by Conor Benn for literally the stuff the similar kind of investigative journalism that we've been talking about here? Not saying anything nasty about Conor Benn or not saying anything personal, purely asking investigative questions here about the nature of the drug testing. Conor Benn threatened to wring him by the neck at this week's press conference. Nobody mentioned that. Nobody spoke up about that, but that's what's going on. So it's not only Ben Shalom getting threatened, journalists are getting threatened physically by these guys as well, Ryan.
But this is what I'm saying. But people won't ask the question because they know they'll be blacklisted if they want. So again, this is not the first time. Didn't Conor Benn slap the camera at someone when they were at
Gareth A.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying. There's like an unwritten rule where you have to kind of be within the clique. Yeah, listen. I've never been part of any group I don't want to be part of. Yeah, you can't put it this way. Certain people are for sale and certain people are not for sale. I ain't for sale. There's no cost for me. No, I mean, you can't buy me. And a lot of these people, they're being bought. And when I say they're being bought, because they're being sponsored to say what you're asked to say. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. If you say something against Matchroom, you can't come to a Matchroom show. If you say something against Ben, you can't go to a Ben show. You can't say that about Frank, you can't go to a Frank show. Say anything about Turkey, you can't go anywhere. So you just got to keep it nice and sweet all the time. That's not journalism. You know what I mean? We had this. There was a situation in the UFC years ago where Ariel Helwani leaked. I think it was Brock Lesnar coming back, and Dana White literally kicked him out and said, "You're ruined. You're banned from UFC," because he'd done his job. Yeah, and this is where we are in boxing.
Just before we move on, Ryan. I'm saying this, right? Just for the record, I'm saying this, not Ryan. It's so interesting to see how people's opinions change. Yeah, when money comes on the line. Yeah. It's interesting, like certain individuals who many, many years ago were calling for Jarrell Miller to get banned for life from the sport of boxing, right? Certain people who, and you guys know what I'm talking about, were pretty vocal about Jarrell Miller needing to be banned for life for the sport of boxing for testing positive about Anthony Joshua. I literally, as we speak, at Conor Benn press conferences, fucking buddying up to Conor Benn. Literally, like buddying up to... Literally buddying up to Conor Benn for a paycheck.
what they say today and what they say tomorrow is two different things. Yeah, like I said, I haven't done the research just to check. Yeah, but if you go back and look at every fighter that's failed a drug test for Eddie Hearn, to fight an Eddie Hearn fighter or a Frank Warren fighter or a Ben Shalom fighter, they're worse than dirt. But when it's the other side of the fence, it's, oh, we made a mistake. Oh, it was a problem. Oh, he paid his debt. Now he's back. Know what I mean? Yeah. Again, same thing. We spoke at Dillian White last week. Dillian White's had 4 suspected pay, yeah, but he's worked for Eddie and Frank within that period of time. Yeah, like I said, like I said before. Know what I mean? Yeah, like to really love boxing and to understand boxing, you got to kind of put up with the bullshit. Because, like I said, there's no impartiality, there's no fairness, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's all about money. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's fair enough because they say money rules the world. We all got to make a living. We all got to have homes and jobs and cars and X, Y, Z. I understand that, but like, if you like I said, if you were to put all the interviews together of all these guys, you will find a lie every interview. Because what they say in one interview, they will contradict in another interview. Yeah, no one has no integrity.
Yesterday's hypocrisy is not today's hypocrisy, as you can see on the screen there.
Yep.
Right, let's move on to the actual fight itself very quickly. Well, is this fight actually any good? Right, and what I mean by that is going on Conor Benn's last performances. Chris Eubank Jr. last time out against Liam Smith. That's the best I've ever seen Chris Eubank Jr. look. I've never seen Chris Eubank Jr. look so good, like moving around behind the jab. I didn't think he had a jab. That's like one of my biggest criticisms of Chris Eubank Jr. over the years. No jab, no distance control. You know, primarily, you know, works on, you know, working, you know, just throwing himself to the inside and then letting his hands go, etc., right? But we saw, for me, I saw something a bit different in that Liam Smith rematch. And obviously, he's not with Bomac for this Liam Smith rematch, but unless Conor Benn makes some pretty drastic changes from what we've seen in his last two outings, is this actually a competitive fight? If you know what I mean, because you have to be some pretty drastic changes from Conor Benn. Because Conor Benn who went rounds with Pete, and that was competitive, by the way. It wasn't just that Pete Dobson survived. Conor Benn and Pete Dobson was a competitive fight. I sat and watched it. It was a competitive fight. So Conor Benn competitive fight with Pete Dobson, now going up 2 weight classes to fight Chris Eubank, and he's saying he's going to end this fight in a couple of rounds. And unless there's some pretty fucking big changes, I don't see it, Ryan. What do you see?
No, I see this fight favoring Chris Jr. Yeah, and the reason why, I think, to gauge someone on their levels, you need to understand the best and worst of them. Yeah, we've seen Chris at his worst, we've seen Chris at his best. Yeah, so we know, regardless if he's like elite or not, Chris has competed at world level and has won at world level. Yeah, that's what we know. Conor, we haven't seen that. The best fighter on Conor's record is most probably someone like Chris Algieri, who was a former world champion who was blown to bits. Chris Algieri was in his prime maybe 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, and the point I'm making is, so we know Conor's not at that level yet. We also know the size differential, which, to be honest with you, is not as big as we think it is. And when I say that, is that Conor fights at 147, but he's a big enough lad. He's been fighting at 154 the past 2-3 years, since obviously his steroids issue. And Chris, even though he's fought at 168, he's more a 160 guy. He's not the biggest guy frame wise, and he's gone up in weight because he's got older. Know what I mean? But he still has a size advantage. And unless Chris is blown to bits, I think he outlasts Conor. I think he outlasts him. Know what I mean? And Chris is not a massive puncher, and Conor's shown a good chin. We will get an entertaining fight because it will be heated. I don't know about the skill level of the fight, because I'm not sure about Conor's overall skill. He's a good fighter, but as you see, technically he struggles.
There's something else I want to say very, very quickly, and then we'll move on. All right, and we'll wrap up. I don't know if you stay with us another 15 minutes, Ryan, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah, no problem.
I just want to throw some stuff at you. My friend Richard Poxon sent me something this week. All right. It's the last thing we're going to say about Conor Benn and drug testing, and then we're going to move on, guys. I didn't actually watch the Gervonta Davis fight, but I bet Ryan did. I have seen the discussion. I've seen a few bits and bobs, so I will get onto that in a second. All right, but I want to show you something here. Okay, this is a link from Boxing Scene. Okay, and it's a link from Boxing Scene about a man called Dr. Usman Sajjad. And Ryan, you will know who Dr. Usman is, yeah? Doctor to the stars. Before I read this, I'd like to make it clear that I'm not accusing Dr. Usman of doing anything. In fact, I'm not I've actually stuck up for Dr. Usman, because people are thinking Dr. Usman's the problem in British boxing, when my opinion is all elite level boxers are on something. That's my opinion, and I stand by that. Yeah, and I stand by that because I know that when I go into my crappy white collar gym and box with the bums, they're all on something. Okay, right. So the odds of white collar scrubs being on testosterone at the minimum for a fight where no one's getting paid, and you're telling me these guys are on millions and millions of dollars and not taking anything, right? If you believe in Santa Claus, that's up to you, right? But I want to read something out, right? It's a Boxing Scene article, and this is very, very interesting on Dr. Usman Sajjad, right? A former client of Dr. Sajjad has told Boxing Scene that the doctor was a TRT specialist and that clomiphene was widely prescribed to him and others by Dr. Sajjad. Now, this is the key thing. This client is not an athlete, all right? Not an athlete. So this is not a professional boxer. So what this article is basically saying, yeah, as per the header here, is that Conor Benn's doctor, at the time of at least one of his 2 failed doping tests for clomiphene, prescribed the same drug to his non-athlete clients in his capacity as a testosterone replacement therapy doctor. And the person who is a non-athlete said, and I quote, "He prescribes everybody clomiphene," said the client. "The majority of the group are on it. There are 152 in the group, and there's more than 100 on clomiphene." All right. So I'm not going to read any more, but I'm just saying that is somebody who claims to have had a consultation or be a part of a group who's had a consultation with Dr. Usman Sajjad and says that he, as well as 100 other people, were prescribed with clomiphene as part of that therapy or as part of that consultation or whatever you want to call it. And the article, again, not me, the article also says that at the time of Conor Benn's failed test, Dr. Sajjad was also consulting Conor Benn, according to Boxing Scene. That is very, very interesting. Do you not think? Very interesting.
See, the thing about it for me, there's no dispute. He had PEDs in the system. That's not the dispute. So yes, he was possibly prescribed it or took it or whatever. We know that. You know what I mean? And all these doctors and PTs that prescribe stuff and give people what to take, it's rampant in everywhere you go. It's rampant. I go to about 3 or 4 different gyms regularly. Yeah, right. Weight gyms, boxing gyms, fitness gyms, and people are using shit everywhere you go. You know what I'm trying to say? It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. That's the new market. You know what I mean? Yeah, because everyone wants, no one wants to work for shit. Everyone wants to win the lottery, innit? You know what I mean? So I see what's happening. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Know what I mean? Yeah, okay. Like I said before, Conor having it in the system was not in dispute. Yeah, it's what happened after which is in dispute. Yeah, common sense tells you if it's in your system, you can't fight. But Conor Benn spoiled. He's a rich kid that lived in Spain, so I wanted to say no. I still want to fight. I'll pay you. That's what rich people do. Guess what? His promoter's rich. He's Eddie Hearn. I'll pay you. That's what rich people do because we're going to make more money off it. Like, there's no surprise. There's no surprise here.
Just quickly before we move on, just want to ask you very quickly, Ryan. I've always said that Conor Benn is the worst advised fighter in British boxing by a mile, and I've said this, right? And I've actually said it to. I've tried to actually get Conor's attention online, and I've actually put this in messages to Conor quite a few times. The way for me, Ryan, that Conor Benn could have resolved this situation was very, very simple. Conor Benn could have resolved the situation inside 30 seconds. I would have solved it for him for the cost of nothing. I would have actually written a statement for him. I'm very, very sorry about what's happened. This is true. This stuff was in my system. I did not take it intentionally. I've been taking supplements or something happened and this stuff was in it. I'm very, very sorry. I will do everything in my power, to assist the BBOC. If I have to take a ban, I will take that ban and I will come back to boxing and I will work with the testing authorities in the future to make sure that, I don't fail these tests again. I'm very, very sorry to my opponent, Chris Eubank. I am a clean athlete and I will make sure going forwards that everything gets sorted out, right? 30 seconds, Conor Benn, you could have hired me. I could have done that for you. And you could have got off and everybody would have forgotten about that after a week. And this fight could have gone on with no stigma. But Eddie Hearn Frank Smith, Tony Sims, whoever's advising him there, his father, who I wanted to ask you about in just a second, I think the people around him are absolutely moronic.
And here's what they would have said. it was in low doses, or it was only going to be a sitting for another 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and they would have banned him for that period of time to clear it. That would have, or they would have recommended he'd take an extended vacation for it to clear. That's all that would have happened. But again, no joke, that's what sport people do. Know what I mean? That I'm right, regardless what I'm right. I'm right. No matter what, you can't accept. You can't. No accountability, no responsibility. You know what I mean? Like no understanding. It's just no understanding. Like, all right, then I was wrong, or I didn't know. But here's what we do. That is it. He's wasted 2.5 years of his life on this. And I'm not gonna. This is not a joke. He said he was suicidal. He said, like, those are fucking serious thoughts. But you got to look, all the time when there's a problem in your life, you got to look what you did to contribute to that problem. That's part of the package. You know what I mean? That there's very, very rarely in life where someone's 100% non-accountable for the issues in their life. You might have done 1% of something. And you got to look at that and say, how can I fix that in the future? That's how you grow. That's how you mature. That's how you learn from your mistakes, by having accountability for your actions. Conor Benn has shown zero accountability for his actions. And like I said, for the whole debacle he's been in, it is on him.
Last question, then we'll move on for this and get on to something else completely different. Just out of interest, Nigel Benn. Ryan, growing up, he was an idol to me, Like, I've only had a couple of favorite fighters in my life, Floyd Mayweather was one. Vasily Lomachenko was another, But growing up, Nigel Benn was like Nigel Benn was like my hero growing up, We're both from the same West Indian island as well, I believe, He was my idol growing up, man. You know what? When he went through all he went through, thoughts of suicide, tried to kill himself in a car with poisoning and whatever, I actually used to sit and watch his videos because he became a pastor. I used to sit and watch his videos about how he turned his life around, stopped cheating on his wife, sex addiction, everything that he had, rolling around with Tony Tucker and what's his name, and Carlton Leach and the Essex Boys and all this and everything. I've watched a lot of Nigel Benn, a lot of Nigel Benn, not just as a boxer, but as a man, and I've got a lot of respect for him. But what are your thoughts on Nigel Benn these days? Because his conduct recently, ever since Conor Benn failed the test and this and that, you know what? I'm finding it like he doesn't look like the Nigel Benn to me that's turned his life. I'm sure he's turned his life around, but he doesn't look like the humble Nigel Benn that's now turned his life over to God and he's a pastor and he's giving sermons and he's this and he's that. Actually, do you know what? If I'm being honest with you, right? And I'm not saying listen, I'm more flawed. And I've done more bad shit than anybody in this chat put together. I can promise you, So it ain't me to judge nobody. But I'm saying, for me personally, on Nigel Benn, when I watch him and I look at him, I'm like, dude, no disrespect, but the last couple of years or so, you come across like an arrogant individual. You come across like an arrogant individual who believes in your own hype. You believe in your son's own hype. He hasn't, like you said, Ryan, zero accountability. There's just zero accountability across the board throughout the entire family there. I have to say, seeing Nigel's behavior, is really fucking disappointed me. Ryan, do you know what he is, Ryan? He's a man, Ryan, and he's a warrior. No one ever questioned that Nigel Benn's a fucking warrior. Nobody. And not even just the McLennan fight, but the McLennan fight in particular, what he went through in that fight, right? He's an absolute. I know what you're thinking, Ryan. I know what you're thinking. We'll talk about it off the air. You're thinking about Saturday and related, about that fight, about what really happened in that fight, so to speak. And like I said, between me and you, if you look at the way Nigel Benn came to the ring that night, if you look at him and his demeanor, the way he came to the ring and his eyes and the way he was shifting around and moving, I definitely think some things about that. There's some questions about that fight that are unanswered, But having said that, right, he's disappointed me. He's an old guy, Ryan, who can't let it go. And he's a guy, Ryan, who's vicariously living through his son, trying to get a get back that he lost 20, 30 years ago, innit? That's what it's all about, isn't it? He's never gotten over that draw. It shouldn't have been a draw. He won the second fight. For me, Ben beat Eubank in the rematch, right? But he wasn't given that decision. But Ryan, has he ever gotten over it? We had the Channel 5, the Gladiator, the documentary. They were nearly fighting on that. Ben's never really gotten over the fact that he never got that decision, and he's trying to live it through his son. Is he not?
No. you know, Nigel Benn's in a funny situation, and I'm going to defend him partially on this particular element. Conor Benn's his son, and when, regardless if he's right or wrong, when the world's coming at him, even though I believe he deserves what he had coming towards him, that's your son. You're going to defend your son to the ends of the earth. Anyone with kids will know, if someone said anything about my kids, even a passing comment which I don't like, they've got problems, because I'm going to come over and have words with them. So as a father, I can see where his delusion is, because it's his son. So everything he's done with Conor's the best ever. He's better than me. Conor never cheat. He's my son, my DNA, so on, so on, so. That's a father speaking. That's not someone impartial. That's someone defending his son. On the element of, did he get over the Eubank loss? No, he didn't. He never got over the Eubank loss. You know what I mean? Again, he apologized this week for it, but at one point he hated Chris Cena. Like, he's never got over it. He thought he won. He thought it was hard done by. Like, you know, there was animosity there. And, you know, remember earlier on I talked about payback, where someone has to get payback, where the egg slap was Chris's payback for all the stuff. Nigel never got his payback, so he's waiting. So now, like you said, he's living vicariously through his son, through me. My loin is going to beat your son to make it even. So yeah, there is definitely that. There is definitely that. But we have to separate the two Nigel Benns, because what he's saying about his son, right or wrong, it's his son. He's not going to be on national TV or on YouTube slating his son. He's not going to do it. No, I'm trying to say. And when you have, if anyone with kids, when you look at your kids, it's a different feeling when you look at your kids. It's not like you look at your wife. It's not when you look at your brother or your sister or your parents. It's your kids. You've grown them. So I give him a blight on that. He can have that. But you're 100% right. He never, ever got over the Eubanks. And Eubanks never given no chance to get over it. Because I've heard Eubanks say stuff before, back in the day, I beat you to an inch of your life. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember that one clearly. And Nigel's a warrior. He's one of the best in XYZ. The warrior's a great fighter, but I beat him. You know what I mean? So as much as you heap praise on someone, when you're heaping praise on someone like Chris has done, and that's the guy who beats you, every praise you give that guy, you give yourself one more point because you beat him.
Right, let's move on to Gervonta Davis. All right, let's move on to Gervonta Davis. I haven't seen the fight yet. All right, I've seen the knockdown, and go on. You give me your opinion, Ryan. No, I get it. I'll get the thing up on the screen. Do you think that someone was robbed in that fight? Robbed?
Of course he was.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Okay.
Lamont Roach was robbed of a victory. He was run. Yeah, without the knee, he still won the fight. I've never seen a fighter take a knee, then walk to his corner to get advice and get a towel without the ref's consent and continue to fight. If you take a knee and turn your back against your opponent and walk to your corner, you should be disqualified.
Go on, man. Go on.
Yeah, and taking a knee and then taking a point and the referee, can't remember his name. What's his name again now?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, with the eyes. Yeah, exactly. But again, he told him, you lose a point for that, and then he didn't take a point, like he forgot. Like it is clear. Now, here's the thing about it: when you look at Gervonta Davis, yes, he's a tremendous talent. He's a tremendous fighter. I never warranted his pound for pound ranking, and if you don't believe me, I've mentioned it in the video a year ago, 18 months ago, and I could prove it. I'd never rated his pound for pound ranking because his resume is poor. He cherry picks a little bit. Last night was a cherry pick go wrong. Steve Willis, there we go. Yeah, the ref. So,
Ryan, do you know who this is?
Yeah.
This man on the record, yeah? This boy here. All the footage that they're stealing online of Eddie Hearn pushing Ben Shalom and all that, that's all him.
Mm-hmm.
He got press pass. He was Richie filming it all. And all the papers, Talk Sport, all these papers were feeding his stuff and not even crediting him for it. It's a ruthless game, Ryan. A lot of this footage you're seeing online about all this Conor Benn stuff come from him. And just like to say, man, shout out to On the Record Boxing. They thieved his stuff. They didn't give him no credit. But please carry on, Ryan, with what you're saying.
No, keep up the good work On the Record Boxing. Keep up the good work, mate. Hopefully, I'll bump into you one day soon at one of the presses.
That's not a threat on the boxing, by the way.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say was Lamont Roach is a good fighter, world champion at 130. So last night, Tank just lost to a smaller man. Yeah, a cherry pick. 135 is so stacked, and so much fights he could have fought. He chose a champion from another weight class, and he lost. I don't care what anyone says, he lost. Yeah, I hope Tank gets the same credit, the same disrespect that Devin Haney's received over the years, that Ryan Garcia's received over the years, that Shakur Stevenson received over the years. Yeah, because those guys, now I'm trying to say again, yeah, always getting criticism. Yeah, even Lomachenko gets criticism. Tank seems to be void of this criticism when his resume is the weakest by far. By far. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean he's not a good fighter, but you're not fighting your peers, and time is running thin.
I will say on this, right? I haven't seen the fight itself, so I can't judge. What I will say, I have seen the knee. I'd like to know what the actual rules are for the who is it? Is it the New York State Athletic Commission? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it New York State Athletic
whatever state it was in, yeah. Whatever state they were in, that was who will run the fight.
Right.
Yeah.
It's in Brooklyn, so I think it was the New York. So I've seen the rules that have been posted online, and the rules appear to say that it's only a knockdown. Well, one of the criteria for it being a knockdown basically is if you take a knee after a legal blow has been landed, basically, right? So if you look at the rules, I'm trying to get them up. Roach did land a jab, but what I will say is this, though. That jab didn't, to me, in real time, look like it landed. And what I'm saying is this, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? This is what I'm going to go with, right? I'm just going to say, on the replay, I've had people this morning slowing the footage down and sending me slow-mo footage of it saying, you can see, look, Roach lands a jab, and then a couple of seconds later, Gervonta takes a knee. All I'm saying is this, right? The referee doesn't have the benefit, of replayed footage. The referee doesn't have the benefit of zooming in, and the referee doesn't have the benefit of slow-mo. That was not, in real time, a clear jab that landed. If you actually watch it in a slow-mo, it's a jab that grazes, the top of his other eye. I mean, it hardly lands. Do you know what I mean? But a referee, it's very, very acceptable, in my opinion, for a referee to be able to miss that and not see that in real time. And what I'm saying is, as a result, for me, I can see a situation where the referee isn't 100% sure that he's taken a knee straight after a legal blow's landed, because that jab landing is very, very hard to see. And the fact that people have had to slow-mo it and zoom in and do all this to show it shows you, that is something that's very, very hard to see in real time. So all I'm saying is, I'm not saying it's right, but I just want to quickly say, I'm not sure there's 100% corruption going on. I just want to say, I'm not sure there's corruption. That's all I'm saying.
But I will say this though, but the counter argument to that is that after that, even if you don't want to count the knee, whenever you've seen a fighter go to their corner and take it vice and get a towel wipe their face mid-round without a timeout, without the round being stopped, without the ref's permission. So there's two elements to it. It's not just the knee. If a fighter turns back and goes to the corner, the fight is off. There was no timeout. There was no stop. The referee didn't stop the action. You made that choice by yourself.
I think what we need to do, and if someone in the comment can send me a link, please let me know, because somebody sent me a link to the rules, because there are rules that say you can take a knee, but it can't come from obviously an illegal blow. It can't come off, it can't come off a legal blow. It can't come off a punch, but there are certain circumstances where you actually can take a knee in the fight.
So
according to the rule I've seen.
I will say this, if there was a problem, I've seen fighters go before, ref, something's in my eye, ref, something, or ref, something, and ref goes, what's wrong? And the ref has a brief discussion, and the ref will make a decision. All right, go to your corner, stop, or whatever, so and so, and make a decision. Tank didn't do that. He made a decision by himself, and he made the third man, but also made his corner, the fourth people in the ring, get involved in the fight. That's not allowed. That's not allowed. So even if the knee's allowed, he should have been allowed to go to his corner to get a towel put on his head for 10 seconds or 1 second, or whatever it was.
That's a
know what I mean? And here's the thing about it. Like, I'm not being bad, but if you put hair products in your eye, in your hair, that is now affect you in a fight in round 9, whose fault is that?
Do you know what? I want to make it clear here. What you were saying, to be honest with you, I can't counter that, and I'm fine with that. I'm just not 100% sure there's corruption in play. And that's the only thing I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying you said that. I'm just saying online. I'm
No,
not 100% sure it's got. Shall I tell you what I think this might be a case of? I think this
bad
might be a
judgment.
case of. Oh, you've got an idiotic, arrogant fighter like Tank who doesn't know the
Mhm.
rules, which he said afterwards, by the way, who doesn't know the rules, doesn't think any rules apply to him anyway because he thinks it's the A side, and thinks it's perfectly. By the way, I don't think for 1 second that jab that landed caused it fucked
Mhm.
his eye up so much he has to take a knee. I
Yeah,
100%, by the way, believe that he had something in his eye. If you look at the way he went, turned his back, went straight to the corner, went straight for the tower, said, get something out of my eye, and then turn around. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying you're
yeah.
right in what you're saying. What I'm saying is, in terms of corruption, in my opinion, I think what we've got here is we've got an idiotic boxer in Tank Davis who's absolutely full of himself, doesn't know the rules, and doesn't think the rules apply to him. Yeah, and thinks it's acceptable. Yeah, to go and do that. And then we've got a referee there who either didn't know how to apply the rules or was fucking incompetent in how to apply the rules. I'm not sure that was was straight up corruption
Yeah.
because he's the
No,
A
I don't
side,
think.
isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think it was corruption. I don't think it was
Yeah,
orchestrated. Again,
yeah,
it happened on the fly. Tank didn't plan in now round 9. I'm going to take a knee. So yes, I don't think it was corruption. But two things to your point.
incompetence.
Yeah, two things to your point. One, Tank does know the rules. Tank's was a world-class amateur that fought all over America before he was a pro. He's a multi-weight world champion. Yeah, right. And he's a pound-for-pound star. If he doesn't know the rules of boxing, who the fuck does? Yeah, like he has to know the rules of boxing. So I think Tank has no excuse. I think Steve Willis was confused and had no idea what to do. And instead of calling a timeout and taking advice from someone ringside, yeah, because you have officials there saying, look, blah, 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 he just let it carry on. And once he let it carry on, he lost his opportunity to dispute what happened. Because if he went to round 10 and said, I'm going to stop the fight now, it would have been a bigger controversy. He had to make a decision on the fly, on the spot, and he didn't. So he said, guess what? It has to roll. It has to roll.
I think the bottom line of it is Gervonta Davis probably mentally checked out of boxing. Whenever you hear fighters talk about retirement or wanting to quit the sport, in the way he's doing it, I don't think he's doing it in the way that Tyson Fury does it, where Tyson Fury's had enough for a couple of months and blah, 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 blah. Like he's specifically spoken about taking therapy, he wanted to be better in his life. He's then made comments to say that, therapy for him is ruining his boxing career because it's taken the fire out of him as a fighter. Do you know what I mean? That's what he said. He's come online to things like, the therapy is not great for me because, it's taken the fire away from me as a boxer and this and that, and I can't do this and do boxing at the same time and things. So the kind of stuff he's saying, right, I think is actually quite introspective. Yeah. To me, like, I think here, he's almost got 1 foot out of boxing, and boxing's a very, very dangerous sport to be in when you've got 1 foot out of boxing. And he either needs to get fully back into boxing, which he says he has in the post fight now. Now he's saying he wants 4 fights and stuff. But it looks to me, Ryan, like mentally, it looks to me like mentally he began to check out of boxing a while ago. That's my opinion on Gervonta Davis.
Listen, boxing's a difficult sport, yeah, and I'm not gonna begrudge anyone to get in or out of the sport. Now, I mean, it is a tough one. When you're someone like Tank, who's made millions, who's been a multi-weight world champion, who's headlined major events and pay-per-views, you could always pack your bags and go. You know what I mean? And I don't mean it in a critical way. I mean in a good way. Like, you've done what you've done, and I'm happy for all fighters that get out with their faculties and some money in the bank and X, Y, Z, especially a multi-millionaire like Tank. What I will say, if that's how you feel, don't cheat the fans, because boxing, especially in America, where pay-per-views ain't cheap. Yeah, people are coughing up money, pay-per-view money for this type of fights. Now I'm trying to say, yeah, it's not cheap. Don't cheat the fans. If you want to stay in boxing and you're a world champion, fight your peers. Don't fight smaller guys. Don't avoid these guys, and don't say I want to retire and then keep fighting and take money from guys, because life's hard. You know what I mean? A lot of people can't afford. Most people can't afford these things, but because as sports fans and as part of entertainment, it's a byproduct of it. You have to buy to watch the entertainment. Fine, don't rob the fans.
Ryan, have you any other bits from this weekend? Did you see the Crocker fight at all?
Yes, I did.
What is critically thinking about Crocker and Donovan?
I think Donovan robbed himself. He robbed himself. You get point deduction for a headbutt and an elbow, and then you punch clearly after the bell, and now you're crying about it and saying, "Oh, it's unfair." No, you broke the rules. Listen, right? Again, you can't have it both ways. I was dominating the fight. I was winning the fight, and you can't disqualify me. You cheated. Yeah, you knocked the guy out. So what was the ref supposed to do? Tell Lewis, wait a minute, you're knocked out, but get up and fight round 10 or 11 or whatever round it was. The guy's knocked out after the bell. Listen, if you're driving from Manchester to London to your front door and you drive within the speed limit, you stop at the traffic lights, you do all your driving fine, you've done everything perfectly fine. Then when you reach your road, you drive down at 100 miles per hour and crash the car. You can't say, oh, I drove good for 200 miles. You know what I mean?
Lewis Crocker, right? So I actually sent him a DM, right? I made a joke about Lewis Crocker one time and he came in my DMs, innit?
Yeah.
Not a bad joke, innit? I was messing around with Billy Nelson, yeah? And I said, oh, have you heard the rumours that Crocker got stopped in sparring by someone? And Crocker come in my DMs and going, I'm the one who stops people. Do you know what I mean? But he put it on me a bit. He's a solid guy, Crocker. He's a solid guy. So I think, about Crocker, I actually agree with you on this one. All right. Now, I actually am a bit biased on this. And listen, I think we're all inherently. We'll talk about it another time. I think we're all inherently biased. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's impossible. I've always said it's impossible to be absolutely impartial on certain things. Okay. It just is what it is. I've always said some of us like big asses, some of us like big tits. It just is what it is. Some of us like blonde, some of us like brunette, some of us like the other side, like the other side. It just is what it is. Yeah. But what I would say is this, about Crocker. I thought that Donovan was winning the fight, right? And I sent Crocker a message and I said that, by the way. I thought Donovan was winning the fight. However, I agree with you. He was warned so many fucking times here.
Yeah.
And for me, Crocker never ever, and here's the difference for me, right? I tell you what I think's happened in this fight. I think Marcus McDonald has got fed up with Paddy Donovan because Paddy Donovan was on top in the fight, but he never, to me, looked like he was going to stop Crocker, really. Crocker never, to me, looked like he was in any real danger of being stopped until that final headbutt landed and closed up his eye. And you can see after that last headbutt land, you can see that Crocker, he can't see out of the eye. And you can see him throwing shots back to the ropes. He's literally blind with his eyes shut, swinging till the end, And I think at that point, Marcus McDonald was seeing the advantage that Paddy Donovan's got off that headbutt, And I think after that, he's basically marked Paddy Donovan's card and said, look, whatever infraction comes after this, I am now ending this fight. No. And I'm just going to say, I think that's the key. I think the key is that the referee and myself have both seen that Donovan was up in the fight, but it was that last section of the fight where Crocker was beginning to be in trouble and getting knocked down. That's only come from the headbutt. And I think the referee's seen that, and he said, I've warned you now 3-4 times. I warned you 3 times, 2 or 3 times. I then took away points from you 2 or 3 times. You've headbutted this guy again, and now you're on the verge of stopping him because he can't see. And I think he's made up his mind at that point, that, look, there's one more infraction of any kind. I'm now going to stop this fight. And that's what did it for Donovan.
So let's say the fight wasn't stopped and he wasn't DQ'd. You have a valid argument for an appeal because someone's clearly infracted the rules. Yeah. And again, like I said, you knocked the guy out. What do you expect to happen? You knocked him out after the bell. So what you're going to do, wake him up, give him some smelling salts, give him some oxygen and say, go out there and fight and see, can you win?
And it wasn't just heads either, by the way. You saw the replay, the elbow that Donovan threw. I'm not saying it was intentional, but you see Donovan go into the shoulder roll and he flicked out his elbow and his elbow goes right into fucking Crocker's eye. So, I mean, it wasn't even just like heads that people are talking. I've seen people try and bring up the thing of, oh, well, Crocker was leading with his head. No, forget that. It was elbows were going in as well. Elbows were going in too. And the referee was warning him.
I've seen articles. I've seen interviews from Donovan and Andy Lee and a couple of people online saying it was a robbery and the worst reffing in XYZ. How many times can you cheat? And you're calling the ref out and people out for your actions. Yeah, you could have won that fight on points easily. Yeah, you were way ahead on points. You chose to infract on the rules. If you didn't have the headbutts and the elbows, you might not be winning as clear as you were winning. There's more to it, and there's more to it than saying, "Oh, I got robbed of a win. I got robbed of my IBF title shot." No, you robbed yourself. Yeah, you tried to do the shortcut by cheating. And like I said, the punch after the bell wasn't a fraction after. It was clearly after the bell. There was no excuse for that one.
Anything
Sometimes,
else that we need? No, go carry
sorry,
on.
sometimes someone throws a punch when the bell was rung, so the punch was already in delivery before the bell. This punch was thrown after the bell was rung, so there's no excuse to say, "Oh, I was already throwing it. It was in combination." No, it wasn't. The punch was thrown after the bell. It's a clear infraction. You knock someone out.
Anything else that we need to? Do you want to quickly say this week?
Nothing to say. I just want to add one quick thing. Rest in peace to Carson Jones, who passed away after operation. Yeah, 38 years old. Life is short, and to go at 38 years old, I mean, in an operation for his esophagus, it's really, really sad. I know people die every single day, but we don't get to see through his fights with Kell Brook and who else did he fight over here? He had a couple of fights. So we had 4 fights over here. He fought. We get to see these personalities, and it's sad. I'm a hardcore boxing guy. So back in the day when I used to buy Boxing Monthly every month and Boxing Weekly, and before YouTube, you could look at the rankings. So you always see the fighters' names, and you always see the names. And I saw him. I mean, when Kell Brook signed to fight him, I was like, Carson Jones, he's ranked, but he weren't all that. But he earned his worth. You know, I'm trying to say when he came over here. So rest in peace to the former fighter.
All right, Ryan. Guys, That's it for this week. Ryan will hopefully get you back when there's some more news on.
No problem, mate. Anytime.
All right, guys. In the chat, there'll be a comment on how to find Ryan. All right, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other.